You really don't know D&D until you played both as a player and a DM. As someone who's been a forever DM for about 5.5 years, this was my first game I actually played as a player. And I played as a player before, but I never actually finished a campaign. And this wasn't because of scheduling issues or because I didn't like the campaign. I actually found a game that was a good fit and a DM that was able to connect with my character and work with me as a player and told a really compelling story. So I spent a little bit over a year playing a blue dragonborn cleric named Blue Sunborn, a bandit turned healer. And honestly, I was surprised by how challenging it actually was. But the real question was why. And I've been a DM for a little bit over 5 years now. I've played games with people online. I ran small groups in person, and this was a little bit more intense than I thought it was going to be. Running NPCs, managing different plot threads, building counters was all very different than what I've just experienced. And over the last year and a half, I've actually learned some things about being a player that actually made me a better DM. And it changed the way that I prep for my games. Of all the things that I learned as a player, I want to share with you the top 3 things that I took away from this experience. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. Like, subscribe for more content. And if you find this insight helpful to you, I want you to share with me your experience. If you're a new player or if you're a new DM that's been a player for the first time, I really want to hear from you and see how our experiences compare. But let's jump right in. So lesson 1, your backstory has a lot more weight than you think it does. What if I told you that as a player, you actually still need to prep for your game? And if you don't, you're actually going to miss out on a lot of different things that the DM prepares for you. So before becoming a player, I thought players didn't need to prep much. And this was my experience just being on the DM side for so long. Players show up, they spend about maybe like 5 minutes just reviewing their character sheet, whatever notes that they took before, and that was it. No, I was wrong. That is not the experience. My party had a lot more experience than I did being players. Not only did they know their characters inside and out, they stayed true to their motivations throughout the game, and they kept the same accent every session. I can't tell you how many times that I changed Blue's accent from one session to the next, or even in the middle of the session. Sometimes his personality would change, I just simply forgot. And for me, the reason why I wasn't doing so great is it was my first time actually being a player. And what had happened was that we played every 2 weeks, and between life and work, I can only remember so much. And I thought, yeah, that'll be enough. I'll be able to remember the important stuff. But that's not what really happened. So the thing I learned is that player prep is important. It's just way easier than the GM. There's no juggling multiple tabs. There's no maps or chat logs or music or stat blocks that you have to manage. All I really needed was my notes, my backstory, and my character sheet. So it turns out taking notes, it's a big deal. Something that you shouldn't leave to one person at your table to do. I learned that I'm going to write down key NPC names, major events, little details that are relevant to my backstory, also that when the DM drops breadcrumbs throughout the sessions and throughout the adventure, I don't miss out on those things. And our DM, she shared with us that there was a lot of parts of the campaign where she would kind of let clues and hints for us to go and explore and discover, and we kind of missed them. So that's something that I'm going to take with me to the next. And that brings us to lesson 2. Preparing your character's spells and equipment. There's no worse feeling than realizing mid-battle that you don't have the right spells or gear to fight the big bad evil guy. And because I wasn't on top of my session notes, I sometimes forget the cliffhanger at the last session, or sometimes forget to swap my spells. So cut to me mid-fight, with the party fighting the big bad evil guy. And each hit, he takes out a massive chunk of hit points. And I'm here thinking, why didn't I use my short rest? Why didn't I heal a round earlier? And why the hell do I have firecrackers and a stink bomb in my inventory? And it's crazy because as a DM, you don't have to focus on monster stat blocks as much. Unless it's like a special ability that they have, a spellcaster, or a boss type enemy. Most stat blocks are pretty simple and easy to read, but as a player, your character sheet evolves over time as you level up. It gets a lot more complicated, and if you're not keeping track, there's a lot of new abilities that you get, a lot of new spells, a lot of special features, and all that stuff can be overwhelming, especially if you're now looking at it at the battle in between rounds. And as a player, your focus is your own story. And as a DM, your focus is everything else. The lesson I took away from this, a little prep between sessions goes a long way, especially if you're the healer for the group. And with that, we'll segue into our last and final lesson. You need to reflect on who your character is. Have you ever played a character you completely forgotten the voice to, or the personality that you use? I do that all the time. And as a DM who runs a little bit more casual home games, you get away with it a lot more. But as a player, I feel like I need to have that consistency to keep myself engaged. I like to have multiple roles that I'm playing. I like to see the overarching plot of the story. So as a player, I need to remind myself of who my character was, what their motivation was, and it helped me really stay engaged and be excited about the character I was playing. So by the time the game rolled around, I usually went with the general vibe of my character. A bandit turned healer, someone who was seeking redemption, someone who was given the name the Butcher for all the things that he did to seek revenge. And there was a lot of things I was considering his background, considering his own stats. He had an intelligence score of 8, and sure, Blue did a lot of dumb things in the campaign, mostly because I like chaos sometimes and like to do funny things. But he was more ignorant than anything else. All he knew in his life was robbing caravans in the mountains and performing his religious duties at the temple, and that's basically it. So when it came to understanding his motivations, I found that it was very helppful for him, someone being very sheltered, to focus on the bonds he had with others, especially the NPCs that he's forgotten along the way. And he's forgotten a lot of things. He's forgotten horses in stables in faraway lands. He forgot an animated puppet that he adopted on a way to a dangerous portal to the plane of fire. The puppet, ironically named Ash, he tells him to sit right there and he'll be right back. So the puppet's sitting in the snow outside this portal while he's going inside and with the rest of the party to go through these set of trials. And then what happens? He forgot about him. Like the trainer who left Charmander in Pokemon, he just left him in the cold and the snow. Even to the end of the session. No one knows where he went, no one knows what he did. Perhaps he's still waiting there for Blue to return, or maybe he went to go live somewhere else. Our DM hinted that Ash went to live in the walls of a castle somewhere. And remembering that sessions later, I was absolutely devastated. So the lesson here is not just the personality and the accent that defines your character, but it's the bonds that they share with others. And it's something you don't need to force, just something you need to kind of be mindful and take note of. And now to bring everything together. As a DM, these 3 lessons had made it so much easier for me to prep, because now I have first-hand experience on what my players expect and feel and want to make it much more impactful for them. And I would always try to use player feedback before to make games immersive and fun, but there's nothing like having real first-hand experience to also add to that to make further tweaks. So if you found this video helpful, drop a like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss on the next one. And if you had similar experiences, whether you're a new player or a DM who finally gets a chance to play, let me know in the comments. I want to see how our experiences match up. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.